Hello everyone and welcome to iOpenTCGs, the channel where normally I open TCGs, but today we're going to do another floating hand discussion. And today the question is, how well is Star Wars Unlimited actually doing? Now, because I'm doing floating hands, I have these paper things for me for notes, but I will pop up the relevant graphics for you to be able to see. Now, huge shout outs to a YouTube channel called Hometown TCG. The person in charge, Josh, has a website called cardboardfinance.com. And what it does is it scrapes data from TCG Player to determine how much of each thing is being sold. Now, all the data they're going to see here is from that website. I assume it's correct, but I don't know it 100%. And I do want to preface by saying I totally understand. I know the comments already. Oh, this is just one place of data, and you are correct. This is just data from TCG Player. A lot of people for different games have different buying habits. A lot of them might buy from LCGs for Pokemon or Magic, and some others focus on TCG Player. There's a lot of caveats, a lot of things here. We're not looking for super in-depth comparisons, just general trends. So the first comparison that I want to start out with is comparing Star Wars Unlimited, very first set, to my favorite game, Flesh and Blood's brand new set, Heavy Hitters. Now, it's not the greatest comparison, as you can see here, but this is set up to include only sales in the first 30 days, which Star Wars hasn't even hit yet, by the way. But looking at the graphic here, you can see that Star Wars has sold around 8,000 boxes on TCG Player, whereas Flesh and Blood has only sold maybe close to 1,200, right? And that just goes to show, as a Flesh and Blood fan, how far behind Flesh and Blood is. Not to say that Flesh and Blood is doing bad. It has no notable IP, starting from scratch, blah, 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 blah. But if you're a Flesh and Blood fan, like an OG from this channel, hopefully you can start with that comparison point. But let's start comparing against the other new heavy hitters. And the first one, of course, is One Piece. Now, One Piece is very strange. The caveat here is that a lot of stores, they just don't print enough product, right? A lot of stores aren't getting enough product. And a lot of people who are buying product are pre-ordering from stores months and months and months in advance. So the TCG number is actually, I think, really low compared to what it could be, what it should be for One Piece. Now, this is the data from Awakening of the New Era, which was the 5th set. It's not the newest set. But as you can see here on TCG Player, in the first 30 days, Star Wars Unlimited sold around 8,000. Awakening of the New Era is 1,200. Now, with all those caveats, I would say that One Piece is way ahead. Makes sense. This is its 5th set. But it is also another game that consistently runs into printing issues. We just had our first run-in with printing issues with Star Wars. We're not quite sure what's going to happen in the future. I recorded a whole video and then ended up not releasing it with my in-depth thoughts about that. But let's compare it to something more new, which is One Piece's newest set, Wings of the Captain. Now, Wings of the Captain came out about a week after Star Wars. And right now it has less boxes sold. And you might be like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Well, this to me doesn't mean that much because they cut the print run, or they just didn't produce nearly as many boxes for Wings of the Captain. Again, especially in this set, a lot of the product buying moved off a TCG Player and being pre-ordered like a year in advance from other sources. But you can see here that more money was spent, and that's because Wings of the Captain started out of the gate at like $250 per box. It was very opposite of Star Wars, which started out really low and then kind of pushed up as demand was being found there. But again, just general trends on comparing the different hot games. Speaking of hot games, let's talk about the other big hot game, which is Lurana. Now, Lurana's first set, I'm not a huge Lurana person, so I apologize if my understanding of the history is wrong here. But Lurana also came out. I believe it also had kind of a run-up, and then it got more popular, and then it sold out completely. and prices went crazy. Later, they reprinted it, of course, brought it down a little bit, and it kind of reset the upwards trend. But again, this is only for the first 30 days. But as you can see here, Lurana sold around 15,000 boxes, almost double of Star Wars' first set there. And this is, again, is comparing the first set to first set. I don't think this is a surprise to anyone that's familiar with Lurana. Lurana is huge, but there are quite a lot of doubters that are like, Lurana, whatever. People don't play it. Just a bunch of kids are buying it. Well, let me tell you, a lot of people are playing it, and a lot of kids and families are buying it. All right, because also keep in mind that first chapter is like sold. It was sold everywhere. Right? Everywhere. So TCG Player is a very, very, very small place in the overall Lurana market. Whereas I would say that Star Wars, TCG Player is a big marketplace for boxes. Because just tangentially reading people's thoughts on Discord, Facebook, blah, 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 it's usually a lot of these older people coming back, maybe are Magic the Gathering players, where TCG Player is kind of the holy ground for online buying. But let's move on to the second set here. So we got Rise of the Floodborn. This one did sell less than the first chapter. I don't really know why. It could be supply issues. Again, not a huge Lurana person, so let me know in the comments if you know exactly why it went down. But again, around 11,600. But let's move on to the newest set, which is a good comparison here. We have Into the Inklands. It sold even more than the first chapter in the first 30 days. It is at 15,000, almost 16,000. And again, just showing the power. But I think being half of Lurana is actually really, 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 really good. I think that shows that Star Wars Unlimited is in a great place. But I think it also shows Lurana is crazy. Okay? So the fact that Star Wars is half of that, I would only guess, I mean, we can tell from the supply issues, but I would only guess that this is already way, way, way more than what most people were expecting. Now let's move into the big games. I mean, you know what they are. We know what they are. They are Pokemon here. We're going to start with. Now, again, I don't really know Pokemon, so I am just going off of Cardboard Finance's information. They only have information for a couple of the last sets of Pokemon. First one is Paradox Rift, which surprisingly has sold less than Lurana, but Pokemon also is everywhere. This is something people just walk into stores and buy. Again, I think TCG Player is even less important for Pokemon because Pokemon's literally everywhere. But just again, comparison point here. Spark of Rebellion, 8,000. Paradox Rift, 10,000. And then we have one of the newest sets that is not even out yet. It doesn't come out, I think, until tomorrow at the time of recording, but it has already sold around 5,600 boxes. So it's pretty much almost caught up to Star Wars, and it's not actually even out yet, which is crazy. Again, just showing you the scale. And again, Star Wars, I think TCG Player, huge. First Pokemon, not so much. And of course, the last one, the big gun, we all know it's coming. It is Magic the Gathering. Now, I also am not super familiar with Magic the Gathering either. I'm a Flesh and Blood, sorcery, now Star Wars kind of dude, starting with the small games, a little bit of One Piece. I know that this set, Murders at Karlov Manor, from hearing other people talk about it, was not a very good set. Didn't do very well at all. Still sold almost 12,000 boxes. Still, of course, more than Star Wars, but not. When I pulled these numbers, I was like, oh, Magic's going to be insanely ahead. But again, by now, I think a lot of people have their own preferred channels to buy Magic. Again, it is literally everywhere. Lots of local game stores probably selling a bunch. Amazon, selling a bunch. So again, TCG Player, not quite as important. But let's move on to a more popular set. We have Lost Caverns of Ixalan. I believe this is the Jurassic Park set. And it did much better, around 16,000, almost double. But again, within Lurana, right? I think, if anything, this shows how powerful Lurana is right now. And then lastly, we have the brand new set, the Fallout Commander set. And this, again, shows the true power of Commander when it comes to Magic the Gathering, it sold around 32,000. Now, you can play around with this comparison tool. You can look at all the data. Again, it is cardboardfinance.com. I will link it in the description. But after showing all the data, again, I just want to show that Star Wars Unlimited is doing very, very well. Now you can kind of sort of see where it falls between some of the other top games that are out right now. I think I just watched a video from Hometown TCG kind of about, like, we always hear this question, like, is Magic the Gathering going to die? Is Pokemon going to die, right? Is any game going to move into the top 3? Obviously, Magic, no. Pokemon, no. I do personally think that it might be time to crown a new third, but I don't really know which game it is yet. But there's the combo, right? The combo of Lurana, One Piece, and Star Wars so far. I think Star Wars is very small in that, but the combo of Star Wars in there, One Piece, and Lurana, I think really, really, really proves, like, one of those games may steal some players, right? But 3 of those games are really going to maybe steal some players from Magic, right? Maybe from Pokemon if you're Lurana, right? Yu-Gi-Oh! I want to be totally honest with you. I have no earthly idea how Yu-Gi-Oh! Is still top 3, but it is. It's actually insane to me how strong Yu-Gi-Oh! Does when it hasn't had like a culturally relevant anything in the last 20 years, which is absolutely insane. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are for Star Wars. Let me know how your scene is doing now that the boxes are all gone. I mentioned this later on in some of my unboxings, but with it much harder to get product now, or more expensive to get product, I'm not sure I'll be opening too much more of that anymore. So you might get some more talking head videos if people like it. I don't know. But yeah, let me know in the comments, all that good stuff. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.